Bill Clinton.
Gettysburg Address.
No offense meant.
Just look at the kid carry the fight.
Hi, I'm Eric Singer.
Eric is still a dialect coach who cannot stop talking about linguistics.
Today we're going to look at some idiolects. An idiolect is one individual person's way of speaking. So we're going to look at some actors playing real people. Let's look at some clips. Jamie Foxx, Ray Charles.
Making a record is business, and find the best business deal that you can. Now, can you match it?
So there's a posture thing here that's interesting. Ray Charles smiles a lot.
I know.
His lip corners tend to kind of pull straight back towards his ears, even when he's not smiling. It kind of hangs on throughout at least a little bit.
Yeah, you didn't know that, did you?
Jamie Foxx is doing this.
Owning my own masters is a pretty damn good deal.
You know, and he's not just doing this, he's not just doing it perfectly. It's so integrated.
Is it?
It's in him, he's living through it.
Yeah. No.
It's great.
I'm very proud of the work that we've done here together. I loved it. I really did.
Natalie Portman, Jackie Kennedy.
She bought a lot of furniture for this house and took the Lincoln furniture that had been all over the house, which made her husband rather cross.
So she went really far with this, going for a really accurate evocation of a very particular voice.
It was where we lived when we first came here.
It was where we lived when we first came here.
It sounds strange to us now, and audiences responded to it that way. It's a huge risk. I think it really pays off.
And on the table is the Gettysburg Address.
There's incredible care with some of the details here. Listen to the tiny little sort of catch breath right after the word most here.
Yes, they are. The most famous one, of course.
Here's Jackie.
Yes, they are. The most famous one, of course.
One more thing in that line. You can hear a very particular kind of characteristic inflection, sort of movement of pitch. Right at the end of the sentence when she says, bed.
There's the Lincoln bed.
It kind of goes,
Bed.
It's a little plateau and then a fall. Natalie Portman has that kind of inflection possibility. She doesn't use it in the exact same place in this line.
Lincoln bed.
Lincoln bed.
She does use it just a little bit earlier on the word are.
Yes, they are.
Yes, they are.
See, that's pretty cool. That's when you have an accent in you, it just comes out. Forrest Whitaker, Idi Amin.
Mimi Idi Amin Dada. And I want to promise you, this will be a government of action.
Forrest Whitaker prepped for a long time to get Idi Amin's Ugandan English, and it's really good.
What will be the future of Uganda?
It will be like this in Uganda now.
The people are looking at this.
Just to pick two details out, that vowel sound in a word like first.
I never eat a food until my soldiers have eaten fast.
Where it moves all the way forward in the mouth with a kind of a cupped tongue, so you get fast.
Fast.
He's perfect on that. Okay, so there's a great little thing that he's doing too, which is absolutely accurate, which is he puts a little extra vowel sound in a couple of places. This has a fancy name. It's called epenthesis. It's pretty familiar if you think of a kind of a stereotypical Italian accent. It's me, Mario. It's me. And you can hear it here.
I am a simple man, like you.
And here.
We will make this country better.
Jamal Woolard, the Notorious B.I.G.
It was all a dream.
I used to read Word Up magazine.
Remember rapping Duke? The hard. Every Saturday, rap attack, Mr. Magic Molly Mall.
So Woolard is from the same part of Brooklyn that Biggie was, and that helps a lot. But he worked really hard to get this down, and for the most part, he does a really amazing job.
Got it going on.
Especially considering he had to rap like Biggie as well as speak like him.
Choosing all that. Come step into me. That's when you take your fall at.
If I were going to quibble, I'd say
What if I don't make it?
he uses a little bit too much muscularity and detail, especially in his speech as opposed to his rapping.
Time your ass stop talking shit.
Here's Biggie.
I ain't gonna lie. At one point, the music was more important.
There's a kind of an ease, a flow, a slowness almost in a lot of the articulation.
It's a lot easier that way.
Willard really uses his lips a lot to make sounds.
Nah, D-Rock, my gun, my bitch.
And Biggie's lower lip mostly remains kind of down
It's all good though.
and even out a little.
I ain't tripping.
About half of Americans make their S sounds with their tongue tip down, and about half make their S sounds with their tongue tip up. Take a second. Which do you do? Biggie.
Smoking weed and bamboo, sipping on private stock.
Tongue tip down.
So I just stay more on the business side of everything.
Willard.
Live from Bedford-Stuyvesant.
Tongue tip up.
I ain't never saw that gun before.
I make my S's with my tongue tip up. If I'd been doing them with my tongue tipped down my whole life, it would probably sound pretty similar. Since I haven't practiced it a lot, though, it doesn't sound quite the same.
Son. Son.
Stay.
Son.
You should try to get them to sound exactly the same, because why not? Cool party trick. Ben Kingsley, Gandhi.
100,000 Englishmen simply cannot control 350 million Indians if those Indians refuse to cooperate.
So Gandhi's accent actually changed throughout his life, and Ben Kingsley's accent as Gandhi changes through the film. It goes from being much more British.
Let us begin by being clear about General Smuts' new law.
To sounding much more stereotypically Indian.
It would have been very uncivil of me to let you make such a long trip for nothing.
It's not a stereotype, though. It's really accurate. One of the things that is a common feature for most Indian languages and Indian accented English are retroflex consonants. Retroflex means curling back, and the tongue is actually curling back like that. It's flexing back, so retroflex. Civil resistor.
The function of a civil resistor
Provoke response.
is to provoke response.
Continue to provoke.
And we will continue to provoke until they respond or they change the law.
You can hear those retroflex sounds all through those words. Kingsley?
If we obtain our freedom by murder and bloodshed, I want no part of it.
Gandhi.
Everything around me is ever changing.
It's incredible, right? Amazing. Brilliance. Oh my God, it's so good. Michael Fassbender, Steve Jobs.
2 days ago, we ran a Super Bowl ad that could have won the Oscar for Best Short Film.
So Fassbender has said that he wasn't actually going for any kind of imitation of Steve Jobs.
Don't start with me, man.
And it's not a perfect match, but
You.
it gets really close.
And it has turned out insanely great.
This is so good.
Less so, but still pretty good.
Remember, he's not even an American.
No.
He's an Irishman. There's a really subtle kind of drawn-out S sound that Jobs had.
And it eats 8088s for breakfast.
What do you guys say?
Breakfast.
You say.
Another thing Fassbender gets is that kind of slight nasality on sounds.
Apple's history.
Synthesizer sampling fast enough.
Ashton Kutcher.
Why do they buy an Apple? Because it's got bravado.
Played a younger Steve Jobs.
We gotta put in the hours.
It's a process of taking very centralized things.
How bad are you saying?
It's pretty bad. Get out.
Yeah, we could, but...
Get your shit and get out.
No.
That was bad.
Everything. You're done.
Will Smith, Muhammad Ali.
Man, I done told you I'm through fighting.
Not my intention to hurt nobody.
I got a much bigger contender.
This is why I say he's an ignorant man.
A much heavier opponent. I'm fighting the entire U.S. government.
Well, I just think this is amazing. You know, when you think of all the time that Will Smith had to put into his physicality, his body, and learning to box, and you see how much of the boxing he's actually doing in this film. It's incredible that he had time to fit in dialect work.
Ali comes out to meet Frazier.
But Frazier starts to retreat.
If Joe
goes back an inch farther, he'll wind up in a ringside seat.
He worked really, really hard with an expert coach, and the results are incredible.
Ali swings with his left.
Ali swings with the right.
Just look at the kid carry the fight.
I love the way he has the rhythms and the cadence and the pitch of Ali.
Frazier keeps backing.
But there's not enough room.
It's only a matter of time
before Ali lowers the boom.
The way he lengthens a lot of those final N and M sounds.
Because he can't start counting till Frazier
comes down. And here's Ali.
Frazier's still rising, but the referee wears a frown.
Sean Penn, Harvey Milk.
So why then am I homosexual?
If I'm affected by role models, and no offense meant.
But if it were true that children mimic their teachers,
teachers are going to affect you as role models.
We'd have a hell of a lot more nuns running around.
So this is great. I just want to pick out one thing, which is cool. The vowel sound in a word like force.
National Gay Force!
So it's got a very kind of New York or.
Force!
Or. And force is the lexical set word we use to describe this vowel, and we actually hear the word force, which is cool.
Force!
And you can hear Harvey Milk himself doing it here in the words abortions.
Income taxes going for senior citizens, abortion,
and so forth.
And so forth, over, and income tax is no good.
Twice in one phrase. Alec Baldwin. Donald Trump.
God, I'm loving this press conference.
It's good to be with you.
I respect the press.
I have great respect for the news.
Let's take another question from the press.
Right, so this is a comedy impression. Baldwin's made a lot of really sharp observations.
We stopped giving them because
you were overrated.
We were getting quite a bit of inaccurate news, fake news.
And of course, he's turned the dial up on them. He's exaggerated the features. We have a kind of a trumpeted out lip shape, which Trump really does, and he does it more.
Listen,
That was locker room talk.
nothing compared to what
Bill
Bill
Clinton
has done.
Far worse.
Okay.
Minor words, and his was action.
But there are subtle things that he's doing as well. Things that he's doing with the vocal quality. Something about the rhythm that's really cool.
I've turned over all my businesses to my two sons,
My two sons,
Beavis and Butthead.
who are right here.
They're here today. Can we get a shot of them?
Trump has a habit of lengthening out some sounds
The greatest Jobs producer.
and really shortening up some others.
I'm going to work very hard on that.
So there's a lot of contrast.
Okay, this press conference is over.
Baldwin does it really well.
Thank you all for peeing here. For pissing here. For being here.
Joaquin Phoenix, Johnny Cash.
I keep a close watch on the heart of man. I keep my eyes wide open all the time.
Okay, I don't think anybody would argue that this isn't a brilliant performance. It really, really is.
Oh, that's sweet.
Just for the sake of it, I'm gonna quibble. There's one tiny little sound that you can hear in Johnny Cash's accent, which is a wh sound for WH words like when and whistle. Listen to it in Folsom Prison Blues.
And I ain't seen the sunshine since I don't know when I hear that whistle blowing.
Here's Phoenix's version of the same song, in which he just uses a regular old wh sound.
I don't know when I hear that whistle blowing.
So you might say that this is a tiny thing.
When whistle.
And it is. It's a totally tiny thing. And again, I don't want to take anything away from this performance.
Thanks.
But it helps set the place and the time, I think, or it could. And I think that's just an interesting example of the ways in which really specific details can just help kind of support the story. Hopefully not in a way that's distracting, but that just sort of enriches it and brings us in. John Wayne, Genghis Khan.
I share your taste in women, Targetai, but not in blood.
Like I said in the last episode, the f*** let this happen.
Farewell, Tartar woman.
Meryl Streep, Julia Child.
That's exactly the sort of thing that I'm very interested in learning how to do. So in other words, learn how to make sugar syrup.
She sounds just like the real Julia Child.
Unsliced sandwich bread. So much butter. Stops your heart just to look at it. Whack it off.
It just seems to be a pure emanation of the person herself.
I'm already utter bliss today.
It's not just every single technical aspect, the range, the inflections, the accent, the mouth shape.
I do know how to boil an egg. The egg can be your best friend.
In this case, I think we get something of the sense of Julia's sort of forthright flamboyance.
We're having a cheese and wine party. Bonjour! On the French chef.
A joie de vivre, joy in life. From this voice.
Dear Avis, that was a mistake. I was speaking French to you.
Wait, what? You want Naomi Watts as Princess Diana?
That's what we need, isn't it?
You got it.
It's almost as if he doesn't know who I am.
One of the things that happens in Diana's accent is that vowel sounds that for me are diphthongs, they get smoothed in the direction of being one single vowel quality. So instead of I, we have something like ah.
If you want him to smile, smile.
And instead of oh, we have something like
Choices.
Listen to So Follow and Don't Know from Naomi Watts here.
So you followed him. Oh, I don't know.
She moves in that direction, but her lips still want to move. Listen to Naomi Watts doing Buying Time and 5.
We're buying time, putting 2 and 2 together and making 5.
So those price vowels aren't smoothed at all. This is a detail, but it's one that I really would have liked to see.
Bloody irritating.
It really would have helped conjure the character and the time and place and social class for me. Denzel Washington, Malcolm X.
Now, the house Negro, he lived in the house.
He lived right up next to his master.
Either in the basement or up in the attic.
Let's just talk about the vocal quality here. Stuff that you're doing really in the throat, right at the level of the vocal folds themselves.
The house Negro could afford to do that because he lived better than the field Negro.
He dressed pretty good, he ate pretty good, what the master left him.
Which sort of come together like this to make voice. He's got kind of a gap and a little rubbing there, so we get that slightly hoarse breathiness.
If the master got sick, he said, "What's the matter, boss? We sick?"
He's found a way to do it that sounds a lot like Malcolm X.
He loved his master. I say he loved his master better than the master loved himself.
Cate Blanchett, Bob Dylan.
You know, we all have our own definitions of all those words.
There'd be no music without the words.
That's all I ever do is, protest.
That is the most important thing. There really isn't anything else.
I didn't come out of some cereal box.
I haven't really struggled for that.
There's no one out there who's ever going to be converted by a song.
If it did, I would certainly tell you.
So Blanchett is a really gifted accent performer.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
She's letting her oral posture here do a lot of the work of evoking Dylan and his famous voice.
His songs acts a personal conscience.
I haven't heard it for a long time. I couldn't even sing it for you, probably.
Her jaw is high, her lip corners are slightly pulled back, the rest of her lips are soft, and there's kind of a narrow space in the mouth, but the tongue is really active in doing a lot of the articulation.
Like burning a draft card or burning yourself.
I don't think we have enough time to really...
Of course, there's some of that characteristic, almost stereotypical Dylan nasality.
Thank you very much.
But she doesn't go over the top with that.
Do we?
Jennifer Lopez, Selena. Yeah, so I'd imagine this is almost certainly a case of little prep time and inadequate, probably little to no support.
Yeah.
The thing is, it doesn't seem to be a clear choice.
No, of course not.
I'm not sure if Lopez is going for Selena, if she's going for just a touch of a Texan accent. So you can hear a pin-pen merger, pronouncing pin and pin about the same, in the word fence.
Just like, we'll put up a wood fence in the front.
Pronounced like fence.
Fence.
Way back when.
But at other times she just sounds more like...
And I've been thinking...
J-Lo.
Or maybe having some little animals of our own. Yeah.
Jesse Eisenberg, Mark Zuckerberg.
My attention is back at the offices of Facebook, where my colleagues and I are doing things that no one in this room, including and especially your clients, are intellectually or creatively capable of doing.
Okay, so this is a really good example of one approach to playing a real person. Don't do them.
No.
Eisenberg isn't going for a dead-on impression of Mark Zuckerberg.
No.
This is what Mark Zuckerberg sounds like.
When you put that information in your profile that you bought a scarf, that's something that your friends might find interesting, right?
No.
He is nevertheless evoking the character or his interpretation of the character through his speech.
That is really good. That's really good.
It's very precise kind of articulation, very rapid with a tongue tip. This is a man whose mind works really quickly.
You have part of my attention. You have the minimum amount.
Who's very precise. Everything is sort of going over in there.
I do.
Just kind of ridiculous.
It's all about ideas. It's not about relationships.
I think it's probably a little bit of both. But, I mean...
He doesn't suffer fools.
No.
Like, ever. At all.
And that was it.
That's awesome.
It's raining. Ewan McGregor, Alec Guinness.
Hello there.
Yeah, okay, I know we're cheating here. Obi-Wan Kenobi wasn't a real person.
Oh, I don't think so.
But Alec Guinness was.
He can go about his business.
And this is so iconic that when Ewan McGregor took over the role of playing Obi-Wan Kenobi...
Oh, this is going to be easy.
He had to find a way to do a convincing, younger version of Alec Guinness.
I have a bad feeling about this.
I think he does an amazing job.
In my experience, there's no such thing as luck.
But of the particular vocal quality that Alec Guinness had as Obi-Wan Kenobi...
A more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Sort of coming from opening up the pharynx.
Millions of voices suddenly cried out in terror.
Sort of stretching open the throat wide.
Suddenly silenced.
And you can hear a lot of that as a younger version of it.
I do hope he doesn't try anything foolish.
In Ewan McGregor's version.
I was beginning to wonder if you'd got my message.
These are not your droids. Daniel Day-Lewis, Abraham Lincoln.
I am the President of the United States of America, clothed in immense power.
We don't have any recordings of Abraham Lincoln, but his voice was described by contemporaries, and they described it as being surprisingly high-pitched, kind of reedy, and even whiny.
And what wouldn't those numberless fathers have given to be able to say to their sons as I now say to mine.
So Daniel Day-Lewis constructed something around the character that we know as Lincoln and some of these really famous, really familiar words.
Do you imagine he'll forgive us if we continue to stifle this very natural ambition?
So the questions are basically, does it serve the story? Does it feel like the character? Is it specific? Does it draw us in? Is it integrated?
It's true because it works.
What do you think? Did it feel like a full three-dimensional real person? I think yes. But I have to say, it has been done better.
Party on, dudes!
Michelle Williams, Marilyn Monroe.
I'll be playing Grushenka. I want to be the best actress I can be.
So this really strongly evokes Marilyn Monroe without necessarily going for that dead-on evocation.
I'm considering it.
Very important to me.
She has that characteristic breathiness.
I like it a lot.
Oh yes, very much.
A lot of the accent sounds really good.
Sure.
I don't know.
There's one particular thing, she might not have been going for this at all, but she doesn't quite have that sort of little girl tonality that Marilyn Monroe developed.
Well, how do you know how to answer that since they misinterpret that?
That comes from a lot of subtle shifts inside the vocal tract.
Yes, it is.
But a lot of it comes from the way she sort of holds her tongue forward in her mouth. You can hear it here.
Happy to be back.
I'm happy to be back. That sort of very forward tongue position.
Let's say I sleep in nothing but Yardley's lavender.
But it's a different suit.
Johnny Depp, Whitey Bulger.
You were just saying could get you buried.
All right, let's talk about T's and D's again.
You got 2 minutes.
This is really interesting because he uses a particular part of the front of his tongue again, and it's a lot of the front of his tongue. It's kind of the tip and some of the blade of the tongue.
Just so.
Sort of like this.
That's $20,000 for you to not do the hit.
It's not really close to the teeth the way we might expect for a New York or most Boston accent.
Did you marinate the steak?
But it is right for Bulger. Listen to Whitey Bulger.
They said that something, I don't know, I forget what they said. Somebody threw my name in the mix.
And here again is Depp.
Take the money, keep your mouth shut about what you just heard. It's best you're not involved. Take the money, take the money. Take the money.
So this is a little speculative, but you notice the way he presses that tongue tip in quite hard and lets a lot of pressure build up behind it. To me, that almost suggests something about this psychopath.
You gotta tell me that.
Who has all this violence, but it's pent up until it explodes. Let's look at that T sound again.
Take the money, take the money. Take the money.
Now, does somebody who uses a sound like that automatically have a lot of rage inside them, and does it mean they're a psychopath? No, of course not. That's not the way accents work. But it might contribute something to that impression.
And how does he plan to achieve that?
Even if it's just letting the actor feel like there's something going on inside that's controlled and then released.
That's 2 minutes.
Angela Bassett, Tina Turner.
We always do it nice.
All right, here's something really cool about this. This is kind of funny because I'm not actually talking about Bassett's vocal performance.
Every now and then, I think you might like to hear something from us.
Something you need. Something maybe rough.
I'm going to say something about what she's doing when she's singing. It's actually Tina Turner. She sings all of her own stuff. But Bassett obviously is performing it, and she's really, really figured out exactly how Tina Turner sang.
Working for the man every night and day. Working for the man every night and day.
Watch her lips when you see this. Watch the way they sort of trumpet out like this.
Rolling on a river.
And here's Tina Turner.
Rolling on a river.
So it wouldn't have sounded like Tina Turner's voice was coming out of Angela Bassett's body if she hadn't gotten that detail right. Kevin Spacey, Christopher Walken.
Trick or treat, smell my feet, give me something good to eat. If you don't, oh no, I don't care. I'll pull down your underwear.
Right, so again, this is a party trick impersonation. It's not supposed to do anything other than make us laugh and go, wow, yeah, that's him. That's really good.
You know, the AFI, it's an award.
He's a talented impressionist. I think he does a great job.
Be damned if any slope's gonna put the greasy yellow hands on his boy's birthright.
It's like the Tony, which I'm up for.
He takes that one Walken inflection.
Crazy. Crazy.
And just repeats it over and over and over again.
Ward.
Wow.
Up for.
It's fun to do, and it gets a laugh, so why not keep doing it? Cuba Gooding Jr., O.J. Simpson.
Well, I won't be wearing these much longer. Oh, that was something. Bobby, have a good night, huh?
So, Cuba Gooding Jr. took a lot of heat for not sounding like O.J. This...
That I did not, and could not, and would not commit this crime.
Doesn't sound like this.
I did not, could not, and would not have committed this crime.
And that's okay. It's totally cool. It's a conscious artistic choice made by Cuba Gooding Jr. and the director, probably, not to try to do an evocation of O.J.'s speech patterns. He worked a lot on the physicality and, of course, on the essence, the soul, the spirit of the guy, but they left that part of it out.
They ask me every week, Dad.
They ask me, Dad.
Maybe because they thought it would distract in some way from the story.
How much longer?
How much longer?
Does it work for you? Well, it's a subjective judgment.
Just want this trial to be over.
You make the call.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Two other actors in this same piece are doing much more to kind of pick up the real speech patterns of the people they're playing. John Travolta playing Robert Shapiro.
Any time that I take on a new criminal case,
I wanted to hire the best forensic people in the world.
I always ask the client a question.
Is your qualification statement incomplete in that regard?
And Kenneth Choi playing Judge Lance Ito.
What tape excerpts are appropriate for the jury?
I know that you've made a commitment.
Would never suppress any information.
To see this matter through.
Diana Ross, Billie Holiday.
Hush now, don't explain.
So Diana Ross isn't really doing anything when she's speaking to evoke Billie Holiday.
I love you too.
But she really is when she sings.
Mama may have, Papa may have.
That particular tonal quality that Billie Holiday had
Bless the child.
comes from a lot of very, very, very subtle and complex positioning of the muscles in the throat.
For the rain together.
She's somehow getting just the right combination to really get that Billie Holiday sound. I find this really impressive. It's incredibly subtle and complex, the particular things that contribute to somebody's individual tone, that kind of quality of their voice, especially when we're talking about a great singer like Billie Holiday. Steve Carell, John DuPont.
Do you have any idea who I am?
So I think Carell has done something really interesting here.
Do you have any idea why I asked you to come here today?
He's taken some very specific, accurate observations about DuPont's actual accent. You can hear a bit of DuPont speaking here.
Hi, my name is John DuPont. Welcome to Foxcatcher Farms.
He's got a lot of the accent, a lot of the vowel sounds, a lot of the oral posture. His mouth kind of stays open all the time throughout. His lip corner's a little pulled back. And he has those hesitations, those weird long pauses.
Has many aspects.
It feels like Carell has slightly heightened all of those things.
No.
Oh, you're right.
Oh, no.
Although this is just speculation.
Yes, I do.
For me, the effect is of kind of heightening the sense of the character's loneliness.
David.
Mike.
His sort of oddness.
A lot of work to do.
Why don't you tell him something about the program?
His feeling trapped inside himself. That's a really crucial aspect of the character.
Athletic tenacity against the fish.
That the whole plot hinges on.
I win, they lose.
Don Cheadle, Miles Davis.
I'm a Gemini, so I'm two people anyway. I was born modal, this and that.
If you watch the last installment, I kind of gave Don Cheadle a hard time about his Cockney accent in Ocean's 11.
Hang on, are you accusing me of booby trapping? You had one job to do!
Gives me great pleasure to be able to say that this is just fantastic. That vocal quality that Davis had, you might think it's easy, you just kind of go raspy like that.
Man, you ain't no Walter Cronkite.
I ignore the critics.
But he does it in a very particular way that really matches Miles Davis.
Sometimes we fight each other, you know.
That's all I know.
Like a war.
Miles Davis had surgery in 1957 to remove a nodule from his vocal folds. At least in his telling, he permanently damaged his voice by yelling after surgery. What a nodule does is when you have it on the vocal folds, it prevents them from being able to come together and vibrate smoothly. It's kind of bumpy and rough.
Yeah.
And that's why you have that kind of hoarseness or coarseness.
Sit there and some click.
So to be able to do that is really cool. Will Ferrell, Harry Carey.
Hey! If you were a hot dog,
A lot of things happened today,
and you were starving,
and they were all dramatic.
would you eat yourself?
Comedy impression.
One thing's certain.
You just gotta sort of pick one thing, you run with it. Carey is very D-dazzle. He really doesn't send a lot of air through his nose, so it's almost like when you're stuffed up and you don't have any air that could come through there.
Sure as God made green apples.
Don't jerk me around.
You do hear Ferrell doing that really extremely at some points.
First I'd smother myself with
Seems the ingredients.
brown mustard and relish. I'd be so delicious.
Conclusion.
So, just in case you forgot, this stuff is really, really hard. Even more so when you've got the weight of expectations. You're playing a famous person, somebody with an incredibly famous or familiar voice. There are various ways of going about this, various artistic choices, all of which are completely valid. Ultimately it comes down to, is it effective? Does it serve the character? Does it serve the story? Does it draw us in? Is it a real, full, textured human being? Thanks for watching.